Hey everyone, and welcome back. We're diving deep today into the career of Pam Bondi,
Oh, yeah.
President-elect Trump's pick for Attorney General.
Definitely a fascinating choice.
It is. We've got a ton of articles and actually even some legal documents to sort through.
Wow.
We're going to uncover some controversies, examine her actions,
It's juicy.
and explore how politics, law, and ethics kind of all come together in her story.
Like a real-life legal drama unfolding right before our eyes.
Right, exactly. So before she was in the national spotlight, Bondi was a prosecutor and spokesperson in Hillsborough County, Florida.
Yeah, down in Florida, right.
Mm-hmm. What were some of those early cases and moments that really shaped her career?
Well, she started out as an assistant state attorney,
Okay.
which is where, a lot of aspiring lawyers cut their teeth.
Yeah.
One that sticks out is her prosecution of Dwight Gooden,
Oh, wow.
former Major League Baseball pitcher.
Yeah, I remember him.
Big star, but,
That's old.
yeah, substance abuse. And his case drew a lot of media attention.
Okay.
Bondi also prosecuted people involved in the death of Martin Anderson,
Oh, right.
teenager who died at a boot camp-style youth detention center.
Tragic story.
Horrible. It sparked outrage and calls for reform,
Understandably.
put Bondi right in the middle of a really sensitive and high-profile issue.
So she was already kind of comfortable in the public eye even back then.
Yeah, she was.
I read that she even appeared on shows like Scarborough Country
Really?
and even did some guest hosting on Fox News.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, those early media appearances definitely hint at something that we see throughout her career.
Mm-hmm.
A knack for communicating and connecting with audiences.
Yeah.
And, maybe even a bit of political ambition sprinkled in there.
Okay, let's unpack this next chapter. Her rise to Attorney General, the
Okay.
2010 campaign. Tell me about that.
Okay, so she faced a really competitive Republican primary,
Mm-hmm.
went up against Holly Benson and the then Lieutenant Governor Jeff Kottkamp.
Wow.
But Bondi had a secret weapon up her sleeve.
What's that?
Endorsements from big names like Sarah Palin. This was like peak Tea Party movement.
Oh, yeah.
And Palin's backing gave her a lot of street cred with that base.
Oh, for sure.
Propelled her to victory.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So that Palin endorsement really signaled where Bondi stood politically,
Mm-hmm.
aligning herself with that more conservative wing of the Republican Party.
Absolutely.
And then she went on to defeat Dan Gelber in the general election,
Yeah.
becoming Florida's first female attorney general.
First female, big deal.
Pretty big accomplishment.
It was, yeah. And it really set the stage for her to move on to a larger national role.
Okay. So one of her first big moves as Attorney General was to lead that legal challenge against the Affordable Care Act.
Obamacare. Right.
Obamacare, yeah. Still very polarizing today.
It is very much so.
That's her main argument against it.
So she focused on the individual mandate,
Okay.
which required, most Americans to have health insurance.
Yeah.
Bondi argued it was unconstitutional, which resonated with a lot of people who saw it as government overreach.
Yeah, it makes sense that she would align herself with that position.
Definitely.
But here's where it gets a little bit interesting, right?
Oh, tell me.
A few years later, she joins another lawsuit
Okay.
challenging the ACA's protections for pre-existing conditions.
Mm-hmm.
Help me understand this. She wants to get rid of the individual mandate,
Okay.
which a lot of people saw as intrusive, but also wants to get rid of those protections
Right.
for people who could be denied coverage because of their health history.
It's tricky.
Hmm.
How do you fight for individual liberty, but then also support something that could actually hurt those who are the most vulnerable?
Yeah.
This contradiction really highlights how complex healthcare policy can be.
Yeah.
And it raises questions about what was really driving her decisions.
Hmm.
Was it just about principles, or were there political calculations in the mix?
Those are some really important questions to consider.
They are.
We see this tension between individual liberty and the role of government.
To provide a safety net. And it's a debate that, we're still having today.
Absolutely. Still very relevant.
Okay. Let's talk about Bondi's stance on same-sex marriage.
Oh, another hot button issue.
Very much so. She defended Florida's ban on same-sex marriage, right?
Oh, she did.
Argued she was upholding the state constitution, even though she said it wasn't really her personal view.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
And that drew a lot of criticism, especially after the Pulse nightclub shooting in Orlando,
Okay.
2016.
Horrible.
a lot of people felt like her defense of the ban just didn't ring true,
Yeah.
especially after such a horrific event that targeted the LGBTQ plus community.
It put a spotlight on the changing social and political landscape around LGBTQ plus rights.
Yeah, and Bondi found herself at the center of that national debate.
You mentioned earlier that she was comfortable in the public eye.
Mm-hmm.
Did this controversy, did it impact her media appearances at all?
Well, she continued to embrace the media,
Okay.
even while she was Attorney General.
She co-hosted shows on Fox News like The Five.
Wow.
Even appeared on Sean Hannity's show.
Really?
Pretty unusual for a sitting attorney general.
I would say so.
Yeah. And the Florida Commission on Ethics never actually gave the okay for those appearances.
Well, that raises some concerns, right?
Yeah, potential conflicts of interest.
It blurs the lines between her role as a public servant and, a media personality. It
Definitely.
makes you wonder about those motivations and whether she was trying to, boost her political ambitions.
Yeah, good question.
Okay. Speaking of ambition, potential conflicts of interest.
Okay.
Let's talk about the fundraising controversies that surrounded her during her time as Attorney General.
All right, let's do it.
There's a lot to unpack there.
There is.
Let's start with her relationship with Scientology.
Oh, interesting.
Wealthy Scientologists were organizing fundraisers for her campaigns, which, raised some eyebrows.
Understandably so. I mean,
Yeah.
critics question whether these donations, if they were influencing her decisions as Attorney General, especially when it came to any potential investigations into Scientology.
How did she respond to those criticisms?
She defended the ties, saying that the group was backing her efforts to fight human trafficking.
Okay.
But that explanation didn't really convince a lot of her critics.
Yeah.
They kept questioning whether it was appropriate to take such large sums of money from a controversial organization like that.
Yeah, I mean, that incident really added to this growing perception that, maybe she was susceptible to influence from powerful donors.
It did.
And then there's that lender processing services incident.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
She pressured attorneys to quit who were investigating the company,
Right.
and then she got campaign contributions from them.
Hmm.
She denied any wrongdoing,
Of course.
but it definitely looks questionable.
Yeah. Doesn't look good.
Can you talk a little bit more about that incident and the implications of it?
So this really brought the idea of a quid pro quo into the spotlight. Lender Processing Services was facing accusations of doing some shady stuff with foreclosures.
Mm-hmm.
And Bondi's office was part of this multi-state investigation.
Okay.
But she steps in and urges the attorneys who are leading the investigation to resign.
Oh, wow.
And then shortly after, boom,
What happens?
she gets campaign contributions from people connected to the company.
Oh, wow.
So while it was never proven to be directly connected,
Yeah.
the timing really raised some serious ethical questions.
Mm-hmm.
It fueled that perception that Bondi might be putting donors' interests ahead of her duty to the public.
It's tough to look at that and not think something's fishy, right?
It really is.
And as you said, it contributed to that growing sense of distrust.
Yeah.
But even that pales in comparison to the firestorm over the Trump University donation.
Oh, that's the big one.
This is the one that really put her ethics and her judgment in the national spotlight, right?
Absolutely.
This is arguably the most significant controversy of her entire career.
It is. It's the one that just keeps coming back.
It does.
The timing, coupled with her decision to not join that lawsuit against Trump University, really raised questions about whether she was using her position to help a political ally.
Okay. Let's break this down for our listeners.
Let's do it.
What exactly went down with this donation and why was it so controversial?
So back in 2013, Bondi's office is looking into complaints about Trump University, Trump's for-profit real estate seminar program,
Right.
allegations of fraud, deceptive practices, all that New York Attorney General had already filed a lawsuit.
Okay.
Bondi's office was thinking about joining in.
So she's in a position to potentially cause some serious legal problems for Trump.
Exactly.
Okay.
Then what? Then, right at that moment, a $25,000 donation from the Trump Foundation lands in Bondi's Political Action Committee.
Oh, wow.
And shortly after that,
Yeah.
Bondi decides not to go after Trump University.
That timing, it's suspicious.
Suspicious. And of course, they both deny any wrongdoing.
Saying the donation had zero influence on her decision, but it doesn't look good.
No, not at all. The appearance of a quid pro quo, you can't deny it.
Yeah, and then the story just gets more complicated, right?
Oh, yeah, this is where it gets wild.
What happened next?
Okay, so the Trump Foundation later comes out and says, oops, our bad.
What?
The donation was a mistake.
A mistake.
Yeah. They say they meant to send the money to a Kansas nonprofit with a similar name.
Oh, come on.
But then Bondi's spokesperson is like, hold up, that's not right.
Okay.
Bondi herself asked Trump for the donation.
Oh, wow.
Directly.
So it's a tangled web of, like, who said what.
Exactly.
What's the truth.
Yeah, it's a mess.
And then the IRS jumps in.
Of course they do.
Right.
They decide the donation was illegal.
Okay.
Because the Trump Foundation wasn't allowed to make political contributions.
Gotcha.
So Trump ends up paying a fine for that.
Okay.
Bondi, no legal consequences.
Okay, but she doesn't escape the controversy.
No, not at all.
And then the bombshell report from the Daily Beast.
Oh, yeah, that was a game changer.
What did they find?
Emails.
Okay.
That contradicted the Trump Foundation's whole "it was a mistake" story.
Oh, wow.
These emails showed that Trump's people knew exactly where the money was going.
Really?
Yeah, to Bondi's PAC, not to some Kansas nonprofit.
Oh, man.
Smoking gun, right.
Yeah.
Pretty much solidified that suspicion that Bondi had cut a deal with Trump.
A donation in exchange for dropping the investigation.
Exactly.
So, despite their denials,
Mm-hmm.
the evidence is pretty strong that there was a quid pro quo.
It's hard to argue with that.
It really calls into question her judgment on whether she was committed to serving the people of Florida or her
Yeah.
own political ambitions.
Big questions.
And it casts a shadow over her nomination for Attorney General,
A long one.
which is actually where we'll pick up in part 2 of our deep dive. So we've been talking about this Trump University donation controversy.
Yeah, a lot of baggage there.
'Cause it's pretty explosive stuff.
It is.
How much do you think this is going to impact her confirmation hearings?
Oh, it's going to be front and center.
You think so?
I mean, the Democrats are going to use it to say she's too close to Trump,
Right.
that she can't be trusted to act independently.
Yeah.
They'll probably paint her as someone who puts loyalty above the law.
Interesting.
And that could even sway some moderate Republicans who are already a little iffy about Trump's influence.
Yeah, it's going to be a political showdown for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
It'll be interesting to see how she handles those tough questions and ultimately how the Senate votes.
Yeah, big stakes.
But let's put the confirmation battle aside for a second
Okay.
and shift gears a little bit.
All right.
Bondi had a career after her time as Florida Attorney General.
She did, yeah.
What did she do?
Well, she went into lobbying,
Okay.
which, a lot of former government officials do.
Yeah.
She even represented the government of Qatar,
Interesting.
which raised some eyebrows.
Why is that?
Well, they have a pretty controversial human rights record.
Ah, I see. So from prosecutor to lobbyist representing a foreign government,
That's quite a journey.
what kind of insights would she bring to the Justice Department, based on those experiences?
Well, it's a mixed bag.
How so?
On the one hand, she knows firsthand about international relations, how foreign governments work,
Right.
which could be helpful dealing with stuff like transnational crime, terrorism.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But on the other hand,
Yeah.
that lobbying work, especially for a country like Qatar, it could be seen as a conflict of interest.
Especially when you're talking about human rights.
Exactly.
So it could be both good and bad.
You could say that.
Okay, and then there's her involvement in Trump's first impeachment.
Oh, yeah. Can't forget that.
Remind me, what role did she play in all of that?
She worked for the White House during the impeachment inquiry,
Okay.
which is interesting because at the same time, she was still working as a lobbyist.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, not really clear how she managed both roles, especially with all the ethical questions around lobbying while working for the government.
Was it even legal?
Well, she had this special government employee status.
Okay.
So technically, yes,
Right.
but definitely ethically questionable. And her main job was to attack the impeachment process,
Okay.
which is pretty partisan,
Yeah.
especially for someone who might become attorney general.
Right. Because that requires impartiality.
Right.
You have to uphold the law.
Exactly.
Regardless of politics.
Mhm.
It seems like her loyalty to Trump is pretty strong.
Unwavering, you could say.
She was even on his defense team during the Senate trial.
She was, yeah.
Makes you wonder if that loyalty would overshadow her commitment to justice if she became Attorney General.
That's a valid concern.
And speaking of loyalty and, maybe some questionable actions,
Okay.
she made some serious allegations against Joe and Hunter Biden during the impeachment trial,
Oh, yeah, those are pretty explosive.
accusing them of corruption in Ukraine.
Right. Those allegations were definitely controversial. A lot of people saw it as just a way to deflect attention from Trump's own actions.
Right.
which were the whole reason for the impeachment inquiry in the first place.
Yeah.
She zeroed in on Hunter Biden's position on the board of Burisma Holdings.
Oh, right. That Ukrainian energy company.
Yeah, exactly.
It was a huge deal at the time.
It was.
It really fueled that partisan divide.
It did.
Did those allegations ever lead to any actual evidence of wrongdoing?
Not that we know of.
Really?
Despite Bondi's claims, there's no evidence that either Joe or Hunter Biden did anything wrong.
Wow.
It was largely seen as a political smear tactic
Okay.
intended to damage the Bidens' reputation and sow doubt about their integrity.
So basically just using accusations without evidence for political gain.
Pretty much.
And that can really erode public trust.
Absolutely.
Makes it hard to figure out what's true and what's not.
It does, yeah.
So it seems like she's not afraid to play hardball in the political arena.
No, she's not.
Even if it means maybe bending the truth or making accusations without solid evidence.
It does make you question her judgment a bit.
Yeah, and the company she keeps.
Speaking of...
Let's talk about Lev Parnas.
Oh boy, here we go.
He was close with Rudy Giuliani.
Right, Trump's personal lawyer.
Deeply involved in the whole Ukraine scandal.
Up to his neck in it.
Didn't he get into some legal trouble?
Yeah, he was arrested,
Okay.
charged with campaign finance violations.
Mm-hmm.
But before all that, he had several meetings with Bondi.
Really?
Yeah, both while she was still Florida Attorney General and after.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
What was their relationship about?
It's not entirely clear,
Okay.
but we know Parnas was a controversial figure
Right.
connected
Yeah.
to some shady folks in Ukraine.
Yeah.
So even though it wasn't illegal for them to meet,
Mm-hmm.
it does raise questions about her judgment,
Yeah.
you know, who she's willing to associate with.
Like, is she entangled with people who are operating in this ethical gray area?
Exactly.
It's about perception and whether those connections could create conflicts of interest or even, compromise her ability to be impartial.
Absolutely.
So we've got the Trump University donation,
Yeah.
her work for the White House during the impeachment,
Mm-hmm.
lobbying for Qatar,
Right.
those meetings with Lev Parnas.
Quite a list.
It's a lot.
It is.
And she's also been a vocal supporter of Trump's claims of voter fraud in the 2020 election.
Oh, absolutely.
I remember seeing her on Fox News
Mm-hmm. Multiple times.
repeating those baseless claims about a stolen election.
Yeah, and when they asked for evidence,
Mm-hmm.
nothing.
Just vague allegations.
Conspiracy theories, the whole 9 yards.
It's that same pattern.
It is.
Making claims without evidence, fueling distrust.
In the democratic process.
Right. But even with all of this baggage, Trump has stayed loyal to her.
He has.
He even appointed her to the board of the Kennedy Center.
During his lame duck period, no less.
Wow.
It's like, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. Trump values loyalty above all else.
And she has definitely been loyal.
Through thick and thin.
That Kennedy Center appointment, it was seen as a thank you.
For all that unwavering support.
Interesting.
Even when she was facing all that controversy and criticism.
And that loyalty paid off, it seems.
It did.
2024 potential second Trump presidency.
Yep.
She lands a key role at the America First Policy Institute,
Big-time conservative think tank.
developing policies for a potential Trump administration.
Exactly.
So she's right in the thick of it.
Oh, yeah. Shaping policy proposals.
Even helping file those voting lawsuits in battleground states,
Leading up to the 2024 election.
which raises some concerns about her commitment to fair elections.
It does.
So she's gone from prosecutor to lobbyist, impeachment defender to policy advisor.
And
Now she's nominated to be the top law enforcement official in the country.
it's been quite a ride.
What a journey.
It has.
What does this nomination tell us about American politics?
That's the big question, isn't it?
Yeah. What are the potential consequences if she's confirmed?
We'll see.
We've got more to unpack here.
We do.
We'll dive back in after a quick break. All right, we're back.
Back for more.
We've been tracing Pam Bondi's journey
Quite a journey it's been.
from Florida prosecutor
Yeah, humble beginnings.
to President-elect Trump's nominee for Attorney General.
Top of the legal world.
Quite the deep dive,
It has been, yeah.
wouldn't you say?
Absolutely.
So, I mean, we've covered a lot.
A lot of ground.
And it's pretty clear that her career,
Yeah,
it's been marked by accomplishment,
for sure.
but also controversy.
Oh, plenty of that.
It's that kind of blend,
Yeah.
right, that makes this nomination so interesting.
Fascinating.
And honestly, a little bit unsettling for some.
I can see why.
It's that tension between what she's achieved,
Right.
her loyalty to Trump,
Yeah.
and then all these ethical questions.
Swirling around her.
So let's step back for a second. Bigger picture.
The big picture.
What does Bondi's story...
Everything we've learned about her. Tell us about American politics today.
Well, it really highlights those deep partisan divisions.
Right.
They've kind of come to define our political landscape.
It's like loyalty trumps everything else.
It often does, unfortunately.
Experience, qualifications.
Doesn't seem to matter as much anymore.
Political calculations are more important than, actual justice.
Yeah, that's a dangerous road to go down.
It's like we're in this hyper-partisan world where the ends justify the means.
And the lines get blurred.
Right and wrong, all mixed up.
It happens more often than we'd like to admit.
And it's not just about Bondi.
No, not at all.
We've seen this across the board.
Across the political spectrum.
In recent years.
It's a trend, a worrying one.
It's dangerous because it erodes trust.
Public trust.
In our institutions.
Yeah, the foundation of our democracy.
If people lose faith in the system, that justice is blind.
Equal for everyone.
Then what are we even left with?
Cynicism? Yeah. Apathy. A system that can be manipulated.
Ripe for abuse.
It's a breeding ground for authoritarianism.
Where a few people have all the power.
And individual rights? They just get trampled on.
Scary thought.
It is a chilling thought.
Yeah.
And Bondi's nomination, with all the baggage, the unanswered questions.
Yeah, it fits right into that narrative.
So what happens if she's confirmed?
Well, we could see a Justice Department that's more about Trump's agenda than actually upholding the law.
Interesting.
Investigations into his opponents. Maybe allegations against Trump and his allies just get swept under the rug.
So basically the Justice Department becomes a weapon.
Against political enemies.
It's supposed to be the defender of justice.
Yeah, for all Americans.
And it's not just about investigations, right? We could see a shift in priorities.
Civil rights, environmental protection.
Corporate accountability.
All of that could take a backseat.
It's like policies are enacted just to benefit Trump and his allies.
At the expense of everyone else.
The public interest just thrown out the window?
Sadly, that's a possibility.
But what about checks and balances?
Well, they're supposed to be there.
Aren't there systems to prevent this kind of abuse of power?
Yeah, in theory.
Okay.
But those systems, they rely on people.
Okay.
People with integrity, independence.
Who are willing to stand up and do what's right.
Even when it's hard.
Yeah.
Or unpopular.
That's the key.
It is.
So the question is...
The big question.
Will those checks and balances hold up?
Under a Bondi-led Justice Department? Or will they just crumble?
Leading us down a path of unchecked power.
It's a slippery slope.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's about more than just Bondi, right? It's about the future of our democracy.
The kind of country we want to live in.
This whole deep dive into her career, it's been about understanding
those forces at play.
And our political system.
The choices that our leaders make.
And the impact those choices have.
On everyone.
So what can we do?
Well, first and foremost, stay informed.
Good.
Read different sources.
Yeah.
Be critical of what you see and hear. Don't just accept things at face value.
Right.
Have conversations, with people who have different viewpoints.
Yeah.
Try to understand where they're coming from.
And most importantly,
make your voice heard.
How do we do that?
Contact your elected officials. Participate in protests.
Okay.
And vote.
Yeah.
In every single election.
Every election.
Democracy is not a spectator sport.
It's not. You have to get involved.
It requires all of us to participate.
We can't just sit back.
Hope for the best.
We have to be the change.
We have to.
Well said.
Thank you. This deep dive.
It's been a journey.
It's been a journey.
But it's just the beginning.
It's a starting point.
For more exploration, more reflection.
Hopefully some action.
Meaningful action.
The future of our democracy depends on it.
It really does.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
My pleasure.
We hope it's been informative and thought-provoking.
Remember, knowledge is power.
It is.
And understanding the past and the present
helps us shape a better future.
Absolutely.
So until next time, keep asking those questions.
Keep searching for the truth.